Hello everyone, I'm Sarper Akdemir, an intern at Collabora Productivity. In this talk I want to present you an interoperability improvement with regards to tab stops in Impress, and do a quick showcase of how that came about. The interoperability we are concerned with here is with Office OOXML. We both want to import and display the file generated by PowerPoint correctly, and be able to later save it back to PPTX or ODP without problems, preserving original state of the file throughout. The specific problem that I will showcase was about a feature mismatch, or more correctly missing feature in tab stops between PowerPoint and Impress. As it is the usual case with interoperability problems, the file when opened by Impress seemed different. The fundamental problem here is, in the opened file, the tab stop distances appeared wrong. Let's break down the related features and the problem. I will try to refer things by their names in open document format to keep it somewhat consistent. As you'll likely know, naming is hard. In both PowerPoint and Impress, tab stops are associated with style of a paragraph. In Impress, it is possible to define properties that affect positions of the tab stops in two different scopes, but PowerPoint has an additional third one. Firstly, Impress allows to define a list of tab stops for a paragraph style, where each of the tab stops specify a position. Secondly, Impress also lets the user to define a document-wide tab stop distance. Since this property is only available through the default style, it cannot be customized per paragraph. Tab stop distance basically dictates what happens when there is no corresponding tab stop defined for a given tab character. It sets the automatic distance between sequential tabs. So what's the problem? Both of these exist for PPTX too, but there is also an additional ability that makes it possible to define paragraph scope tab stop distance, and that is the feature that Impress is missing. So it was required to implement the missing feature of paragraph scope tab stop distance. But how? After a bit of research, the plan was, first we will need to store this information in the document model. After that, we should make sure EditEngine considers this new property when layouting the text. With that in place, we should have something that is workable with. So we expose the UNO API and make it importable and exportable to PPTX and ODF. Lastly, we should also make sure the existing UI elements can take the property into account. Let's elaborate on each of these steps a little bit more in depth. We want the property to live in the paragraph styles in the end. Therefore, this meant the new tab stop distance will have the same scope as the tab stops implementation before. So adding it in this SVX tab stop item, which keeps information for tab stops in a paragraph, made sense. Accessing paragraph scope tab stop distance was already only going to be needed where there was an access to tab stop lists anyway. So bundling these together was also going to make plumbing information later quite easier too. Also, tab stop items, query value and put value implementations was adjusted to finish up the document model related bits. With that in place, it is now time to alter the behavior. It is important to reiterate here that the scope of this work was Impress and Draw. Therefore, the behavior is only implemented in EditEngine for now. So what is implemented here won't cover Writer. After a bit of research, it appeared that EditEngine determines the tab stop position inside create lines. This is done through a function in content attributes called findTabStop. So we make sure findTabStop considers the paragraph scope tab stop distance we put in place, and that's about it for here. With that in place, we can move on to exposing the UNO API. So with the query value and put value implementations from before in place, exposing the UNO API only takes a single line, so it was easy to do. For import from pptx, the property we have been calling tab stop distance is given by default tab size property of the paragraph properties. So we handle that during import and map it directly to our tab stop distance defined in the tab stop item. And as expected, we just do the reverse of that for the export. This time mapping from tab stop item to default tab size property of the paragraph properties. Moving on, to implement import and export of the feature in ODF, Regina Henschel had a suggestion for allowing the tab stop distance property that was previously only allowed inside the default style in arbitrary paragraph styles, which makes super sense. So the exported markup would appear as you can see on the screen. Obviously, while implementing that, we make sure we export to LibreOffice extension namespace, since this feature isn't yet supported by the ODF standards. To finish up, connect it to horizontal ruler in the UI so that it would display the new tab stop distance correctly. And that about sums it all up. Now it is possible to define paragraph scoped automatic tab stop distance in Impress. Before finishing off, let me give you an overview of what else could be done or improved in the area. Right now, there is no UI in place to define these paragraph scope tab stop distances yet. Also, as I mentioned before, the scope of this work was Impress and Draw. Therefore, in Writer, it is not possible to define these right now. Thank you all for listening. This is all from me.